Okay, in this video, we're going to be going over the difference between good fat and bad fat. Now, I know fat has developed notoriety in the American culture because of its link to fat gain and weight gain, but I would just like to point out that not all fat is created equal. There is no Bill of Rights for fat, so we're going to be going over which fats are going to be healthy. Now, fat itself is very important to the diet. Not only is it one of three basic macronutrients, along with carbohydrate and protein, it is very important to the diet for biological reasons. First and foremost, it provides a source of energy. Secondly, it helps strengthen our cellular membranes, preventing toxic substances from getting into our immune cells and our basic functioning cells. And finally, fat brings with it a lot of vitamins. A lot of vitamins that aren't in a lot of other foods. So if we don't eat enough fat, we might not be getting enough vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K, and those types of vitamins. So fat is very important. Now, I know a lot of people freak out when they see fat on a nutrition label. But calm down and rest assured that there are good fats out there.
Take it easy. We are the good guys.
And good fats are going to be the unsaturated fats. And this can be monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat. And these fats are good because they do not get stored as body fat very easily. And they are also very, very numerous in a lot of the fat-soluble vitamins. Let me just quote a small passage from the USDA dietary guideline as it relates to the unsaturated good fats. And I quote, "Keep total fat intake to 20 to 30% of calories consumed, with most fats coming from sources of poly and monounsaturated fats like fish, nuts, and vegetable oils." This means that we have to be consuming good fats as part of our diet. If we have about a fourth of our total calories coming from fat, they should be coming from the fats that give us the most amount of vitamins with the least amount of harmful saturated fats. Again, nuts like almonds, peanuts, cashews, walnuts are great sources. Fish like salmon. We have swordfish is a good fish. Tuna is a good fish. But salmon is very high in the polyunsaturated and omega-3 fatty acids. So salmon is probably the number one fish for good fats. And also, olive oil is good. Avocado in small amounts, because avocado is high calorie, but it does have good fat. So those are some good sources of the unsaturated fats. Okay, now we're going to talk about the bad fats. And by bad fat, I mean saturated fat. Now, saturated fat is going to be found in a lot of processed foods. So when we pick up a package of processed food, we want to make sure that there's a low amount of saturated fat. Now, saturated fat is different from the unsaturated fat because this type of fat has been directly linked to weight gain and obesity. So we want to keep this down. Just to go over some basic differences between unsaturated and the saturated fats, this picture will help. Because we can see that in the saturated fats, all of the carbons are surrounded completely by hydrogen. This makes the molecule shielded, basically, from being digested properly and used for its energy purposes. As opposed to the unsaturated fat, which has one or more carbon double bonds, which provide a perfect source for degradation and utilization. Okay, now let's look at a particular quote from the USDA dietary reference, and this pertains to saturated fat. And I quote, "Consume less than 10% of calories from saturated fat and trans fat, and keep saturated fat and trans fat as low as possible." Now, in my opinion, trans fat should be eliminated from the diet altogether, because trans fat is a mechanically processed fat where they add extra hydrogens to an already saturated fat molecule to increase shelf life and increase taste. Now, what this does is it also increases the chances of weight gain. It increases the chances of free radical oxidative stress, which we all know is carcinogenic and cancer-causing. And it also is just generally not good for our health to consume these unnatural processed type foods. So trans fats should be eliminated. One quick tip for determining if a food has trans fat in it is if we see trans fat and there's any number other than 0 on the food label. Also, even if the food has 0 grams trans fat, this might not be a trans fat-free food. The harsh reality is the FDA allows food to claim 0 grams trans fat if the food has 1 or less gram of trans fat per serving. Now, you're thinking to yourself, well, then how do I know if a food really has trans fat or not? What we need to do is we need to scan over the ingredients. We need to see if the food contains any partially or fully hydrogenated oils. Now, what this means is they're hydrogenating, which means they're adding the hydrogens, which causing trans fat. So hydrogenated is trans fat. I don't care if it says 0 grams. Hydrogenated is trans fat. Okay, now let's just compare what would happen if we got all of our fats from good fats, or all of our fats from bad fats. Okay, about 1/4 of our total calories come from fat. So if we're getting all of our fat from good fat, we could be having 2 servings of nuts in a day, along with about a serving of olive oil. This is going to provide a lot of vitamin E, a lot of fiber. We could also be having a good amount of salmon, which is going to provide a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, which are good for the heart. It's going to provide a lot of protein as well. We can even have a little avocado, which has a lot of antioxidants, a lot of vitamins, and a lot of those good fats. If we're getting 25% of our calories from bad fats, we could be having a lot of potato chips, which have a lot of high glycemic carbohydrates and very, very little vitamin. We could be having candy bars, which are loaded with sugars and preservatives. And we could be having a lot of fatty cheeses, which are high in sodium, which are high in saturated fat, and cholesterol, which will probably send us skyrocketing to the emergency rooms within the next few years. Okay, I hope this video provided a lot of helpful information about the differences between good fats and bad fats. Please go to my website at stevonutrition.com. There I have a nutrient database with a lot of helpful information and links that go into these topics in very great detail. Until next time, peace out, stay healthy.